With this and everything everywhere all at once, what's with bagels and multiverses? Makes me wonder if the MCU is going to jump on that bandwagon with their multiverse saga. Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner. Welcome to my review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the newest animated sequel from both Marvel and Sony Pictures Animation, as well as the sequel to 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. In Across the Spider-Verse, we follow Miles Morales has both become Brooklyn's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and reunites with Gwen Stacy. He's transported across the Spider-Verse where he meets a team of spider people. When a new threat is on the rise, it puts Miles Morales in a serious conflict. In 2018, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was released to theaters and it exceeded my expectations. I adored its creative and innovative comic book animation style, clever humor, memorable characters, strong emotional core. Kingpin was a much better villain than I gave him credit for in my original review. Exciting action and a compelling story about what it means to be Spider-Man and anyone can wear the mask. After multiple rewatches and elaboration, it has topped Mission Impossible Fallout for my favorite film of 2018. Not only that, but it's one of my favorite animated films of all time, one of my favorite superhero films of all time, and has topped Spider-Man 2 for my favorite Spider-Man movie. I was jumping with joy when it won the Oscar for Best Animated Film at the 2019 Oscars, 100% well-deserved. Disregard my original grade in my original review back in 2018, I give Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse an A+. When two back-to-back sequels were confirmed, I was very enthusiastic to see where they would take Miles Morales and the rest of the characters to continue the story. It was originally going to be released in April of 2022, then moved to October 2022, then finally to June of 2023. I assume because it was both because of the pandemic or extra time to work on the film. The trailers did a terrific job of enthusing me to see these characters, old and new, and making me very curious to see what the story is going to be for the back-to-back sequels. It was not only very high on my most anticipated films of the year, it was also my most anticipated animated film of the year. The early reviews have increased my excitement when I heard people say this sequel is just as great, if not better, than the first. Now, I've always been curious just how are they going to top Into the Spider-Verse? I've actually seen this movie twice now. First time opening day, second time last night. And I have been busy for the past 2 weeks, so that's why I wasn't been able to get a review out until now. I've just been busy with family stuff and my job. And now I'm finally ready to bring this review to you guys after 2 weeks since this movie's been out. Although I was pumped for this movie, I do want to make a confession that I am 50-50 towards hype. Yes, it's always amazing to see a highly anticipated movie live up to the hype for me. But there is another part of me that likes to keep my anticipation a bit reserved, knowing it could be either overhyped, disappointing, or inferior. Luckily, both times I've seen it, none of that happened here. Because Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is not only an incredible animated film, superhero film, it's an absolutely incredible film in general. A sequel that not only managed to exceed my expectations, but surpasses it and surprised me on so many levels. And I think it's better than the first movie. It has topped Into the Spider-Verse for me. Everything on how to make a great sequel, this movie delivers and more. Let's start this review with the pros. Right off the bat, the animation. Where do I even begin? I should start by saying the animation here, exceptional, stunning, sensational, mesmerizing. I just can't praise it enough. This is not just 10 out of 10 work from the animation team. This is 11 out of 10 work. And all that extra time it took to work on the animation for this movie, it was entirely worth it. Now, Into the Spider-Verse had a breathtaking and groundbreaking animation style that is starting to impact the animation industry with films like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. But here in Across the Spider-Verse, taking it to the next level would be an understatement. This would be some of the most greatest and stylistic animation I've seen in a long time. There were multiple times watching this movie where my jaw dropped and I was just in awe from the mesmerizing animation here. And many times I want to rewatch this movie. I want to do a play-by-play of the animation, the little details I didn't pick up on. This animation continues to excel at being brisk. distinct, creative, vibrant, and innovative style is absolutely remarkable. From the colors, blend of different styles, attention to detail, amazing cinematography. This is truly a monumental accomplishment for the art of animation. I absolutely commend every animator who has worked on this movie. Give them a raise. Just watching this animation in awe, knowing that the animators put a lot of skill, talent, and creativity into it is just absolutely terrific. And there were many times where I thought, how did they do that? How were they able to pull that off? Love the different animation styles from like the Vulture, Spider-Punk, how they blended those in. And the animation with the watercolor with Gwen Stacy's backstory is just beautiful. I love the aesthetic here. Now, Into the Spider-Verse was an excellent origin story for Miles Morales. Across the Spider-Verse is a fantastic continuation of his story and him coming to his own. Miles Morales still maintains as a likable and sympathetic character, showing his life balancing Spider-Man and his life, his relationship with his parents and Gwen Stacy. And speaking of Gwen Stacy, I think she's one of the MVPs in this movie. I loved her here more than Into the Spider-Verse, and she gets a lot more time to shine here. Her backstory is shown, just adds so much depth to her character that gives her a compelling character arc. And I love the continuing friendship between her and Miles. And both Miles and Gwen's stories feel evenly balanced, where I don't feel like one is taking the spotlight over the other. They're both equally investing stories that made me emotionally attached to these characters. And gotta give credit to both Shameik Moore and Haley Steinfeld for their terrific voice work for these characters. For one returning character, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker is great once again, and where they take him in the sequel, I found it to be heartwarming compared to where he was in the first movie. And as for new addition to cast, Issa Rae as Spider-Woman was a good new addition. Spider-Man India was just hilarious, and another very funny new addition was Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk, who is one of my favorite new characters here. And one villain of the film I do want to talk about is Jason Schwartzman as Spot. And he is this villain who is covered with interdimensional portals all over his body. And also quite an unexpected backstory, which I don't want to spoil for those who haven't seen this movie yet. At first, he does start off as a goofy and bumbling villain. Just not everyone takes him seriously. And he was just like, please sir, just let me rob you. Just seeing him attempt at being a criminal was just hilarious the first time we see him. And I enjoyed Jason Schwartzman's line delivery and vocal performance for the character. But later, they accomplished at making this villain go from goofy to menacing. And Spot later in the film does genuinely become a stronger and more menacing villain, and I can't wait to see where they take him in Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I also want to mention a particular musical's theme for Spot. I love that theme. It sounds so eerie, haunting, chilling, and kind of something like out of a horror movie. Honestly, I think he's a stronger and improved villain than Kingpin in my opinion. And one of my new favorite characters here was definitely Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099. Does a fantastic job at playing this character who's both tragic but also understandable with what he's doing and where he's coming from. And I particularly love the conflict between him and Miles, where both sides are coming from. And I do want to give props to the trailers for not revealing too much of the story and saving surprises for the film. So I'm very curious to see where they're going to take that and Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I'm really happy to see Oscar Isaac get better roles in Marvel. After X-Men Apocalypse, which he was fine in, but I felt like they wasted Oscar Isaac, who's a really great and talented actor, into a pretty generic villain role. But I thought he was excellent in Moon Knight, giving a versatile performance there. And also, can we get a Moon Knight Season 2, please? And now in here, this is another Marvel role that Oscar Isaac knocks it out of the park. There is something I adore about both Spider-Verse movies. Yes, the animation styles are very distinct and contain outstanding work and craft. But most importantly, they never reach style over substance territory. This is a darker, deeper, and more mature story than the first, focusing on strong character development, wanting the audience to care, to get invested and attached to these characters, and continue the story in an engaging and satisfying way. And that strong emotional core that made that first movie so fantastic is still integral here, with many other characters with Miles, Gwen, Miguel. And it's exactly how you continue a story without rehashing the first movie. There's so many powerful themes explored in Across the Spider-Verse here that make this really compelling and add so many layers to the story, such as choice, sacrifice, fate, fatherhood, and identity. And all those themes are explored in an enticing and compelling way. And this is now the longest American animated film at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now that may seem a little daunting at first, but watching the movie, I didn't mind the runtime. I was never bored. I felt like it was the appropriate length for this movie. And with how much is in this movie and how much it's setting up for the next movie, I do feel like that runtime was justified. While this is a darker and more mature story than the first, it still maintains the funny and clever humor as the predecessor, particularly with Spider-Man India with chai tea that had me cracking up. So many great visual gags and lines from this movie. And the action, I think, is more exciting than the first. In particular, the chase scene between Miles Morales and the Spider People is absolutely exhilarating and even has funny moments too. Now, with this film being a part 1 story, this is not quite a complete film, but I am not criticizing this film for being incomplete. In no way do I feel that way. I'm not going to spoil anything about the ending for those who haven't seen this movie yet. And all I can say is this, with everything it set up, this was me at the end of the movie. It definitely leaves me wanting more just for the next movie, and I want Beyond the Spider-Verse right now. As for issues or nitpicks, nope, not one. I don't have a single complaint with this movie or a nitpick, just nothing I can criticize about this movie. In conclusion, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a funny, enticing, exciting, superbly crafted, and phenomenal continuation that takes it to the next level. From the story, characters, action, animation, building of stakes, conflict, and emotion, it absolutely delivers in every single aspect. It's rare when I think about this upon my first viewing of the film, but I am immediately considering this to be one of the best animated sequels my eyes has ever seen. It's definitely up there with Toy Story 2, Shrek 2, Kung Fu Panda 2, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and recently, Puss in Boots 2. Highly recommended if you're a huge fan of the first Spider-Verse movie, and if you have not seen this yet, go see it immediately if you have the time. Or if you haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse, do watch that movie before you watch Across the Spider-Verse. I highly recommend both movies. If you have nothing to do right now and you've got off school or work, please go see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse immediately. Or if you're planning on seeing it for a second or third time, please do that. And I can't wait to watch it for a third time when it comes out on Blu-ray day 1. Can't wait to pick it up. And I truly believe this and Into the Spider-Verse are some of the best work Sony Pictures Animation has ever done. Hats off to everyone involved in the making of this gem. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but bam! 5 out of 5 stars and A+. First film of the year to receive that grade and has topped John Wick 4 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for my favorite film of the year so far, hands down. And we'll see if it could remain my number 1 throughout the year. We got Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, Dune Part 2. We'll see what could give this movie a competition for my favorite film of the year. And I am so happy that this movie has made $120 million on its opening weekend, the second highest opening weekend of 2023 behind the Super Mario Bros. Movie. And with the amount of money it's been making and the critical acclaim for both critics and audiences, it's absolutely deserving and making me super happy. And like the first movie, it should absolutely win the Oscar for Best Animated Film at the 2024 Oscars. I am keeping it as the frontrunner for now for Best Animated Film, but I do want to warn you that Hayao Miyazaki is coming out with a new animated film this year, How Do You Live, which I am excited to see, because how much of a legendary director Hayao Miyazaki is, and he is coming out of retirement to do one more movie that's personal to him. I feel like that movie is going to give Spider-Verse a run for its money at the Oscars, so we'll see how the competition goes for Best Animated Film. With everything it's set up, with that cliffhanger ending, I am super excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse next year, and that is already my most anticipated film of 2024. So excited for that. So yeah, Across the Spider-Verse just blew me away. It was absolutely incredible. I absolutely loved everything about this movie. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse if you have seen it? Do you agree, disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you looking forward to film or not? Let me know below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. And don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner and look forward to another movie review.